training camp is right around the corner for the Jacksonville Jaguars as the team reports for camp on July 24th. There are some incredible storylines that are really going to be developing, and there's a lot of things to get figured out throughout camp, throughout the coming weeks, until we actually do get to see week one up in D.C. when we get to hand Carson Wentz his second straight loss in 2 different uniforms. But hey, if you're new here, I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel, and if you're already subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. I appreciate it a bunch. But the battle for that right tackle spot really is kind of the marquee matchup of training camp for a lot of people. Jawan Taylor is the incumbent. Walker Little was kind of been a floater tackle for the last year. He only played about 200 snaps, and it's really going to be a battle throughout the majority of training camp and then probably into the preseason as well. Like I said, Taylor's the incumbent, and he's been pretty pedestrian for the last 3 years. His rookie year was really good for a rookie. And then he just never really developed anywhere past that. So he's kind of just left as this pedestrian right tackle. He was drafted out of Florida to be the right tackle. He played right tackle at Florida, and he just never really developed past his rookie year. Little, like I said, he played about a fifth of the snaps that Taylor did. He played about 225 snaps in 2021. And if you really extrapolate Little's snaps to match Taylor's, Little's numbers and Taylor's numbers are pretty close. It's actually kind of freaky. I didn't expect them to be as close as they were after everything was said and done for hurries, pressures, hits, and also sacks. Yes, they're not really they're a quarterback stat. They're not really an offensive lineman stat, but still, we're going to use them for the sake of conversation here. Jawan Taylor played 1,084 snaps in 2021. Little played 225. So, Taylor had 34 pressures, 25 hurries, 3 hits, and he allowed 6 sacks allowed. Little, you expand his numbers to match Taylor's, and you get 30 pressures, 15 hurries, 5 hits, and 10 sacks. Taylor wins a couple of those. Little wins a couple of those. It really is kind of an interesting thing once you look at it broken down in that way. I absolutely do think that this is going to be one of the biggest matchups in all of training camp and all of Jaguars preseason. So it's definitely going to be a fun one to watch. I believe the Jaguars currently have Jawan Taylor listed on ESPN as their depth chart as the starter. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that one develop as the preseason rolls on. But staying with the offense here, Trevor Lawrence gelling with this new crop of receiving talent that he has. The Jaguars brought in 2 new pass catchers, a new tight end. He's going to be getting back Travis Etienne. And there's just going to be a lot of newness. He's learning Press Taylor's new system. He has to gel in this offense. Yes, they were down, I believe, in the Bahamas. And if you were a Jaguars wide receiver, it didn't matter if you were practice squad or if you were Christian Kirk. It seemed like you were down in the Bahamas catching passes. Because that picture he posted on Instagram had like 25 people in it. But like I said, there's going to be a bunch of new players, starting off with obviously Travis Etienne returning. Hopefully there's not going to be a whole bunch of hiccups in the road for Travis Etienne getting readjusted to the speed of the game, and Trevor Lawrence redeveloping that chemistry that they've had since their early days back at Clemson when they were winning national title. But Evan Ingram, Evan Ingram has the potential to be one of the best Jaguars tight ends. He's probably one of the most athletic tight ends the Jaguars have ever had. Now, he's looking at that bounce back year after, just a somewhat lackluster time in New York. He had a bunch of issues with drops. He had some spurts of real bad inconsistency in New York, and he's really going to look to get better with that. So it's going to depend a lot on Trevor Lawrence developing that and learning how to use the tight ends as much as Press Taylor, Doug Pederson wants to use them going throughout the regular season. The Jaguars made even more moves to bring in talent. They bring in Christian Kirk, they bring in Zay Jones. How are they going to fit into what was already kind of a lackluster offense? How are they going to immediately come in and be the 1-2? Is Zay Jones going to compete with Marvin Jones for that number 2 spot? Where does LaVisca fit into this? And I feel like they're going to be moving them around a lot throughout the sets and learning the offense throughout camp and really trying to figure out where they fit best. And it's going to be a lot of fun seeing the different highlight reels of everyone playing in the slot, everyone trying to play on the outside. I've already talked about how Christian Kirk should not be playing on the outside. He's a slot receiver. But I do think the Jaguars are just going to absolutely square block into circle hole Christian Kirk for a little bit. But this entire offense is going to be adjusting to offensive coordinator Press Taylor and head coach Doug Pederson's offense. So the reps they're going to get in camp are going to be incredibly valuable throughout the remaining days of the summer here. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see a lot of these highlight reels that are going to come out, because I am expecting a bunch of amazing little dime passes from Trevor Lawrence into the red basket of whichever wide receiver is running out there for him. Now, here's something that kind of caught my interest here. the Jaguars have always seemed to pick up 1 to 2 undrafted free agents along the way. James Robinson really didn't make a big impact. Corey Grant was an undrafted free agent for the Jaguars. Alan Hearns, Andrew Wingard, yes, he was a defensive guy, but still, they really do enjoy picking up these undrafted free agents. This year they picked up 2 wide receivers, 3 offensive linemen, and 2 tight ends. Now, the tight end room is probably one of the most crowded rooms already when you look at players that could potentially break through into the starting lineup, and you even just make the 53. Dan Arnold, Evan Ingram, Chris Manhertz, and Luke Farrell. They're probably not even going to carry 4 tight ends. If they do, I think Farrell's going to be the last one. And if one of these tight ends, and this has an insane preseason, maybe you could talk about maybe competing for Farrell for that 4th spot, but it maybe only carrying 3 in. It's going to be incredibly unlikely that one of these veterans gets unseated, even if it is just Luke Farrell. Now, with the 3 offensive linemen, once again, it just kind of seems incredibly hard to actually get through and make the final 53. You have the starting 5 offensive linemen, however they shake out to be. Then you have the 2 losers of the battles, whether it be, Barch, Fortner, or Shatley. One of them is going to lose, and they're not going to have a starting spot. Juwan Taylor, Walker Little, one of them is going to lose the right tackle spot. So you're going to have those 2 backups that are just going to be, they're just going to be the 6th and 7th linemen that aren't starting. And then you're going to have that 8th spot. And it's probably going to be really difficult to beat out Will Richardson. He's been on the Jaguars team for a little bit now. He's really comfortable working with this offensive line. He's been familiar with most of them. And I just don't think it's going to be likely that a rookie beats out someone like the veteran in Will Richardson. Now, this wide receiver spot, this one's probably the one where some competition could shine through. Kevin Austin has really been making a lot of noise. He made a lot of noise leaving Notre Dame. A lot of people said he should have been drafted, but the Jaguars pick him up as an undrafted free agent. He comes to Jacksonville, and I do think the one person he can compete with is Laquan Treadwell. Treadwell had some really nice moments in 2021, but at the end of the day, when you look at how this Jaguars depth chart shakes out, Laquan Treadwell really is the only expendable one. You might say Laviska Shenault is an expendable player, but based off of what he did his rookie year, I want to see him in a year outside of Urban Miller. I want to see him with Trevor Lawrence and having actual competent play calling going on. But Laquan Treadwell, Kevin Austin, that is absolutely going to be one of the bigger battles on the offensive side of the ball. And it's going to be for that 6th, probably wide receiver spot. That is surely going to be a highlight reel competition. They're both big wide receivers. They both can probably be playing on the outside the majority of training camp. And it's going to be a great time to see them just go high point balls, go run huge routes, catch deep balls. It's going to be a lot of fun watching those 2 go at it for probably what is going to be that 6th wide receiver spot. And then just a quick little thing. Are we going to see people dropping the ball? This team led the league in drops. I don't want to see a single person dropping the ball in training camp. Obviously, that goes without saying. But it just seems so imperative this year that they actually have that happen. I want to see just clips of somebody catching a 5-yard out route. I want to see somebody catching a 10 or 7-yard slant. I just want to see people catching the ball. I don't want to just... It's almost like having a toddler. Silence is bad news. I want to see people catching the ball, because when you have the team that when you are the team that led the league in drops, it's reassuring to see people catching the ball and not dropping it. But I'm going to jump over to the defensive side for a little bit. How does Trayvon Walker look? Obviously, when you take somebody number 1 overall, there's huge expectations, especially whenever you take somebody that doesn't have the production over the guy that went number 2 in Aiden Hutchinson. Walker wasn't drafted off of his production, like I said. He was drafted out just being a freak of nature and really as a developmental project. Walker is sure to continue to look like the athletic freak we saw in rookie minicamp and also OTAs. But how does he look whenever he's actually facing an opposing lineman? What was it? I remember hearing on the radio the other day of how whenever Dante Fowler, he was tearing it up in camp. And then they went to a joint practice with, I believe, the Bucs, and their right tackle made him look like chopped liver. He made him look like I was out there trying to be a pass rusher. And it was just like a, whoa, really humbling experience for someone that we had a bunch of promise and excitement going forward. So it's going to be really nice to see what Trayvon Walker looks like against opposing NFL talent. Devin Lloyd is going to probably be coming into the season for Jaguar fans having potentially even more expectations, despite going number 27 overall rather than number 1 overall with Walker. Lloyd is someone that's been talked about as potential defensive rookie of the year, despite being, plus 200 higher for the betting odds than what Walker is. Lloyd is plus 800, Walker is plus 600 according to BetUS. it's going to be an interesting thing. What does Devin Lloyd look like playing out there at the NFL speed, despite it just being preseason? You know, Snoop Connor's been somebody I've been really starting to gush about a little bit. And he's going to probably get the bulk of the carries throughout the preseason. You know, him and Nathan Cottrell are probably going to be two of the more pronounced running backs throughout the preseason. So it's going to be a lot of fun watching those two duke it out. Just kind of having that running back competition, I guess you could say. I don't see any of the running backs really getting unseated, but Nathan Cottrell really potentially just putting out film for other teams. And then the interior of that offensive line, it's going to have, you know, Luke Fortner battling for the center position. I do believe he's kind of a shoe-in for it with the talent level that he has. I do believe the talent's going to trump the experience of Shalley. But it's really going to be fun to watch that offensive line shake out and figure out who are the best starting 5 offensive linemen for this Jacksonville Jaguars team. Now, let me know down in the comment section below, what do you guys think is the biggest storyline going into 2022's training camp for the Jaguars, whether it just be a preseason battle you want to watch. Maybe you think somebody's going to have a huge push late into the training camp, into the preseason, really kind of almost have that impact that Jeff Cotton had, where a lot of Jaguar fans were wanting him on the 53 following the preseason. Let me know down there below. I love talking to you guys. I love interacting with you and giving my takes on what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe and go Jaguars.
How about them Jags?
Come on, Joe! Ah! Thank you, baby! Thank you! You're making blood come from my damn mouth!
Duval!